Hey, welcome to Prepping for Prosperity. I'm Steve Smith. How are you all? Forgive the glare. It's afternoon. I've had a busy day and just now getting around to this. So the afternoon sun is coming through the window of my office. But finally, I'm going to sit down here and talk about what's something that I've wanted to all day. And that is, by the way, welcome to everybody. Welcome to all the new people. We've had so many. This channel is growing faster than I ever thought it would. So welcome to all of you. Want to talk about the key to getting ahead. Now, I may be taking this a little bit out of order, because if we were really going to do things in order here, I'd say first plug all your holes. I'll probably get to that at another time, and that just means quit wasting money, okay? So many people don't realize how much they fritter away on just little stuff. You know, they'll save at the big stuff, but then the little stuff, they don't think about that as really money. And so at the end of the month, if they really went through their debit card or whatever, they would be surprised to see how much they had spent on stuff that really, chips and pop and cookies and stuff like that. You'd be surprised how much that stuff adds up and how quickly it adds up. A lot of you know that, but get a hold of that. Get a hold of your expenditures, and that's one of the first things to do. However, even though that's one of the first things to do, it's not what we're going to talk about today. I want to talk today about the key to really getting ahead. And to kind of springboard off of something, I'm going to use a comment from one of our patrons over on the Integrative Preparedness Patreon site, okay, which brings me to something here. Some of you have discovered that there is a Patreon site for this channel. I wasn't going to announce it. I mistakenly put up the link to it, but I'm not going to take it down now. I was going to wait until there was quite a bit of content up there. Now there is quite a bit, and I'm adding something every day. And I just put up a very, very important one today. I'll get to that in a minute, but yes, okay. If you want to join the Patreon channel, you may do so now. The link is down below. It gives you a lot of extra stuff. I put up sayings from different people, scripture pertaining to, success. And it's not all just, when we talk about prosperity, it's just not all about money. It's about a balance of life. It's about spiritual and mental and emotional and then financial. So, but today I put up one that it is really important. The way you get ahead, you're never going to get ahead. And maybe you might have heard this before. Just like you're never going to get rich working for somebody else. Simple as that, okay? Because you don't have control. Now, if you have a good job, you're working for somebody else, you can stay even, okay? You can stay even. But that shouldn't be your goal. Your goal shouldn't be to stay even. If you're at this job, it pays well, you got bennies, they give you a few % raise every year, maybe a bonus at the end of the year. Good, nothing wrong with that. But if you really want to work toward prosperity, and by that I mean being able to do the things you want to do, be able to do the things you want to do and build up something so that you can pass it on, so that you can build intergenerational wealth, so you can leave something for your kids to start a little bit higher than maybe you did, and leave something for your grandkids. That should be everyone's goal. That's how the affluent think. Sadly, that's not how the working class and the middle class usually thinks. And most of the middle class and the working class thinks, well, I started at zero, there's nothing wrong with that, and my dad didn't leave me anything, and I'm not leaving my kids anything. And okay, that's a poor way to think. And that's not what we're about here. The key to getting ahead is you have to have your own business, or better yet, businesses. Okay. The key here is simple diversity. You don't want to rely on, and we're going to get to our commenter's comment here in a minute. You don't want to rely on your employer as the sole source of your income. And, we're going to talk about a little what they today call side hustles. I don't like that term because it doesn't give it the weight that it really should. It shouldn't be like a side hustle. It should be something you're really trying to develop and work. But you're never going to get ahead if you rely on that one source of income on your employer. Many people found out during this last little unpleasantness over the last few years that they lost their jobs, right? A lot of business owners found out that they lost everything because they had everything in one business. So let's talk about that a little bit. I'm going to start here with our commenter's comment, and it's from Ian. And, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, Ian, because almost everybody that I've ever known that spelled their name like it pronounced it Ian. I knew one guy that's pronounced it Ian. So if you're an Ian, I apologize, but I'll say Ian. Ian or Ian, who doesn't matter. And Ian is one of our very good commenters on the Integrative Preparedness channel. So he says, and this was on the Patreon of that. He said, and I should back up. I'm sorry. It was on the one entitled Financial Preparedness, where I believe I announced this channel. Okay. He says, I have found that cash flow is the most important item. One can only trim so much fat. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because I'm going to be going through this line by line. Trimming fat means saving, right? And that's exactly right. You can only trim so much. Affluence or prosperity is not about saving. Now, it is about not wasting money, but it's not about saving so much as it is income, increasing your income. Okay, so he's exactly right. You can only trim so much fat. But I'm going to go back to that first sentence. I have found that cash flow is the most important item. I'm going to take issue just a little bit with that statement. Not necessarily the way he means it, maybe. I'm not sure. But there are so many people who use this term cash flow. And it started, 10, 15 years ago. Cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Robert Kiyosaki is a big proponent of this cash flow. And I am not in agreement with all the ways that he does it. No, he may not be in agreement with me. I don't care. Doesn't matter. But cash flow can be very, very misleading. Okay. Now I am concerned with cash flow in that I want it flowing to me. Yeah, I don't want it flowing past me. I don't want it flowing around me. I don't really want much flowing through me. Although when you do business, you're going to be making money and then spending money on the business. Yeah, that's some cash flow, and you want to be able to finance your business with cash as it grows. And to that extent, yeah, cash flow is good. But the idea of cash flow, I'm going to say, let's don't use the word or the term cash flow. Let's think about the cash flowing to us, okay? Let's think about income rather than outgo. Income. You want to increase your income, right? Okay, so let's think about that. Cash flowing to us and us keeping a lot of it, okay? Okay. I have worked 80 hours a week for most of my life. I hate to hear that. Now I've owned businesses most of my life. And yes, when you have a business, you work a lot. You do work a lot. And I used to have people, tell me, I wished I owned a business so I could work whenever I wanted to. And I said, well, that's true. You own your own business, you can work whichever 60 hours a week you want to, or sometimes 16 hours a day. But to be honest, there's really not the need for that. You don't have to do that. If you're working 80 hours a week to make somebody else rich, okay, meaning, if you're working for somebody else, you're working 40 hours overtime to make somebody else rich, so you get a little bit more money, you're killing yourself, you're taking away from your family, you are destroying your quality of life, Okay, I know a lot of guys who have done that, and yeah, it brings you in more money, but there's other ways to do it that add to your life, not subtract for your life. He says, this worked 80 hours a week for most of my life. This is how I could always live on less than I make. Well, yeah, if you make a lot more, you're going to be able to live on less than that, and that's always good. I have been self-employed in the past. However, I found that I had to make over twice as much to take home 20% more. I don't understand that. You shouldn't have to take home, you shouldn't have to make over twice as much. Now, if he's saying spending twice as much, okay, maybe so, but when you make twice as much, you should be using that term to describe your net, not your gross. Does that make sense? Okay, so you shouldn't have to make twice as much. As a matter of fact, if you have your taxes under control, you shouldn't have to at all. We're going to talk about that. Probably won't have time to in this one. But one of the most important things you can do as you start or build your business is get your taxes under control, and I will be talking about that. So he says he found that he had to make over twice as much to take home 20% more. I might suggest you tighten up your management there a little bit. He says this was in the firearm, shooting range, and ammunition manufacturing business where I was a partner. And when I read that, I went, oh, man. That is a tough area to make your living in. Tough. You know, people get into that because they think it'll be fun, it's a hobby, or they like it or whatever like that. And that is a tough one to be in. Maybe I'll explain that later, or maybe in another one. Where he was a partner, that's another thing. You're a partner, that means that you're splitting the profits a whole bunch of different ways. I don't like partnerships. I was in one partnership, got out of it, never been in another partnership. Do not be in a partnership, okay? Well, how can I do it? We'll talk about that either on this one or later, okay? Don't do it. Do it yourself. Get something you can sink your teeth into yourself. Now, if your spouse is in it or a family, that's different, your spouse, okay? Because the two of you really are one, or should be. So that's not a partner. A partner is somebody you say, okay, you get half the money and I get half the money. And when you start splitting that up, and I don't know whether it was 2 partners or 3 partners, or I don't know when. Then we took on investors, and that was not a good idea. That was a horrible idea. And I'm not cracking on you, Ian. So many people have done that because they have heard, this is how you build a business. Okay, this is how you do it. No, it's not. That's why I started this channel. So many people have been misled so much over this kind of stuff. He says that was not a good idea. That's right. He found that out. Okay. So often the lessons we learn cost us so much, right? But then we learn them. The business is still operating. However, the founding members are all gone. That's often the way it happens. The business got bigger and our draws went to the chopping block. Well, you know, if the business got bigger and your draws went down, there were problems there. Because if the big business got bigger and your draws weren't going up, it's going backwards. And if you do it my way, if you follow along here, you're not going to have these problems, okay? Then we were all forced into a buyout for pennies, okay? I'm not sure how that happened. But he says that's life in the big city. No, that's people not, I know he's just using that as a phrase. But no, you know, it's not the way things should go. There were problems in this business, and I don't know what the problems were, but there were big problems. I am now interested in doing some kind of internet-based business, that can be good, that drop ships product. I know that there are a lot of commercials because I see them on YouTube, right? I make a lot of money and I never touch a product and this and that, and people just send orders or you get an account through Amazon and okay. Still preparedness based, but not involving firearms. Okay. It can be a legal trap. Yes, it can. And the ATF is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Yes, they are. Or I have also investigated freeze-dried foods as being a manufacturer. Now we're getting something where your hands are actually on it. Okay. Now you're going to have to get into what laws do you have to follow for your your locality, for your city, your county, your state. If it has to do with food processing, you're going to have to think about that. If you're going to ship interstate, you're going to be dealing with the Department of Commerce, potentially. There's a lot of stuff. You're going to have to hire a lawyer. Now the money is going out, right? You're going to have to hire a lawyer to make sure that you're covered on liability. I did buy a harvest rate freeze dryer to experiment with. That's great. I think those are good. My wife and I are looking at farm grants to do construction and purchase equipment for the business. Okay, grants, that's good. You got a wife, she'll probably be able to get one because she is a protected class. She's a female. If it's truly a grant, good. But realize there are a ton of strings that come along with grants, with government grants. You let the government into your business, and they will pull those strings as they will. A grant's one thing. Don't take a loan. Do not take a loan. And if you find that there are some grants that work together with loans, nope. I have always been a doer and not the best manager. Well, that's the case in a lot of people's case. And that's great. It's good to be a doer. Management is where a lot of people fall down. And, the doers will often make fun of managers. Management is where success or failure is found. So and it doesn't have to be complicated. I'll tell you management right now, okay? Spend less than you make and treat people right. There you go. Management 101. You just got the Prepping for Prosperity Management number 101. Spend less than you make, treat people right. You're headed on the right road. Mainly because I am not okay with screwing people over. Well, see, in there, and then he says, I was told this by a businessman that it was business flaw. No, I hear that so often. To get ahead in business, you got to screw people. I don't screw people. And so you see, he didn't mean this. Ian didn't mean this, but I take that as kind of a slap in the face. It's for those people who say, well, to get ahead, you got to screw people over. No, you don't. As a matter of fact, you screw people over, you're headed for failure. You are headed for failure. I know the people who screw other people over might be successful short term. They are not going to be successful long term. The best thing you can do is treat people right. Be honest, keep your word, treat people right, and you'll be good. You will be good. So get that out of your mind. Anybody who thinks that, it is totally false. It is a horrible way to think, and it's usually a term or a phrase that's used by somebody who failed and is mad and is jealous and say, well, I didn't make it because I was honest. No, you didn't make it for other reasons. I don't know what those reasons are, but there were other reasons. It wasn't because you were honest. Now, it might have been because you weren't smart, and I don't mean that derogatorily. Okay, it might mean because you weren't thinking properly about the right things. Okay, simple as that. Okay, Ian, first off, best wishes, best of luck with your new endeavors. I hope that you'll watch these, and I think these will give you some good ideas, some things to follow along with, and I hope that you'll keep us apprised of what you're doing with everything. And now let me get to the next point. You need, if you don't already have a business, you need to start a business, at least one business of your own. Okay? If you already have one, you need to start another one because diversification is the key. You want to create as many income streams as you can flowing into your river. Now, if you have a job, your job is the biggest river. It's the biggest stream, okay? But if you can add something over here to the side that can bring in $200 a month, how great would that be? Would that help you to prepare a little bit more? Would that help you to start paying down your debts a little bit? Sure it would. It will make you feel good, right? If you could add 2 streams, what would that do? If they both brought a couple of $100 in, okay, that's $400. Would that help? That's not where you stop. You find something, and let me see how much time I've got here. You find something that you enjoy. Let me tell a quick story. My mother, along with my sister, put together, they built a bridal rental business from scratch while my sister was in law school. By the time my sister graduated from law school, it was the biggest one of its kind, and they only did it because my sister didn't want to spend the amount of money the florist wanted for her flowers, so she decided to do her own flowers. I'll tell this story at greater length another time. But she wanted to do her own flowers. She did silk flowers, and then ran into a friend of mine one time at lunch who was getting married, and my sister asked her, "Who's doing your flowers?" And my friend said, "Well, I don't know yet." And Valerie says, "Well, we do flowers." My mom looked at her like, "What?" From that one thing, they started that. They started doing silk flowers. I'll tell this story in detail another time. And by the time my sister had graduated law school, they were the biggest of their type, of their kind in the country. My sister never practiced law because that business was so successful. Okay, when my mother got out of that, and this was just some years after my father died, so she was a widow looking for things to do. When she got out of the bridal business with my sister, she taught herself to trade commodities. This was before she had a computer. Nobody had computers then. Well, some did, but she would drive down to the Kansas City Board of Trade and watch the trading boards, go to a payphone and put in her orders. Okay. When she got out of that, because commodities were just getting too volatile, she started going around to estate sales, buying jewelry and things like that and reselling them on eBay. Did great and loved it. Okay. I won't tell you about all the different businesses I've had, but I probably will a little over time. You will hear people say, or I've heard people say, let me back up. Find what you love. You've heard the saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That's true. I love what I do. I love all of the things that I do, including this. When I first started making videos, I didn't really want to do them. I only started the Integrative Preparedness channel to promote my books and to answer questions that people had. And I really didn't like it very much for a while. I have come to love it. Simply because, why do I love it? Because of the interaction that I have with the people. And business is all about people. It's the same reason that I love my other businesses, the people that I deal with. And guess what? I don't screw any of them over. Okay. The Christmas light business, I'll talk about that another time. It just started because a neighbor wanted me to do their Christmas lights. I meet the greatest people. It's the interaction that I get here. The ability to help people. That's really what does it. I tell people, so you're thinking, well, what can I do to start a business? I can't give you the exact answer, but I'm going to give you the direction. I tell people, if you can do what other people can't do, don't want to do, or are afraid to do, you have a business. Whether that is putting up Christmas lights because they're scared of heights, whether that's cleaning out gutters because they're afraid of heights, whether that's putting together flowers for people's weddings because they don't know how. Okay? I know several people who just make great money. They started cleaning businesses. They make unbelievable money. And I know somebody's going, well, I don't want to clean. Well, I didn't say you had to clean. It's a great business. Do you want to get better? Do you want to bring in more money? Do you want to develop more income streams, which you should, because that's the key to success? You'll find ways. You will find ways. And I have people that'll say, but I can't think of anything. I can't help that person because that means I would have to do all their thinking for them. Okay? You will find what interests you. Several of our subscribers on Integrative Preparedness have side side gigs that they do themselves. I know because I've met them. And they do, they make crafts. They go around to the crafts fairs around and they sell and they make a great deal. Kelly makes soaps. She goes around to the crafts festival, sets up a booth, makes great money. There's something you can do too. And we'll get into that again, but that's not the main focus of this one. The main focus of this one, you have to do it. You have to get going. Now back to the find what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That means you will be doing it every day, but it won't feel like work. You will enjoy it. It will wake you up in the morning. You will not be able to stay in bed because you're up, ready to go. I want to get at this today. I can't wait to do what I'm going to do today. I can't wait to whether it's make my soap or print my t-shirts or talk to my customers or whatever it is. That's going to get you out of bed. And it's not going to feel like work. It's not going to feel like going into that office or that place of work to where you don't have the best boss maybe, and you don't like it. You can't wait to get off. No. Now, there are some people who will say, how are we doing on time? Oh, time flies. People who will say, well, I don't want to turn a hobby into a business. That's just going to make what I enjoy work. No, it won't. That's a failure mentality to say that. Okay. Now, I'm going to close this up. The really cool thing is about to come. You have to increase your income. You have to think what it is you can do to bring in more streams of income, more revenue streams. The more you can do, the better. Not only the more money is going to come in, but the more diversified. If you have problems with one, you still have others coming in, right? Okay. Now, since some of you have discovered about the Patreon channel, every day I now put up something. It could be a scripture, it could be a saying from somebody. It's all good. It's all things you should be thinking about when you're thinking about prepping for prosperity. Today I put up one of the best things you can possibly hear. It's a talk by Warren Buffett. You all know who Warren Buffett is. And he talks about two cases of people that he knows that started what became multi-million-dollar businesses, both of them with $2,500. One of them is a very famous woman known as Mrs. B, a Russian immigrant that came over, couldn't speak English, and started with $2,500 when she was in her 60s, I think. Started what became known, and then Buffett bought as Nebraska Furniture Mart. She started, and she worked for him after she sold it until she was 103 years old. That story is inspiring. It's over. I have put that speech of his over on the Patreon channel. That's the kind of stuff you're going to get on the Patreon channel. Since I'm now announcing it, coming to the Patreon channel is the best $5 a month you'll ever spend. If you're serious about this, if you're serious about prosperity, if you're serious about getting up there and establishing yourself and securing your future and the future of your kids and your grandkids, I make sure that it's worth many times more than your $5 a month, and you'll get a lot out of it. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. You need to either start a business or build the one you've got. We'll talk a lot more about that in subsequent videos. I hope that I answered Ian's question there and used it to kind of give some lessons to everyone. Remember that it's up to you. It's up to you. There's a saying that if you don't want to change your life, you'll find an excuse not to. But if you do want to change it, you'll find a way to. It's your choice. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.